Oh, yes, indeed. Just ahead of that conversation, which continues about ensuring that schools are secure. So the question about state or multi-level policing comes to the fore again. And we do know that the governor of Kaduna State is one huge proponent of that. And so in light of what's going on there, perhaps he might just keep thinking at some point, this is part of the reasons why they think that it should decentralize policing. We'll have a conversation about that as we progress, but let's take you back to that incident that occurred in Wuse. We do know that FEMA, several agencies also going there to look through how that happened. We know we also did bring you earlier statement from the police, how they are ensuring that it doesn't get out of hand, but at the moment, as you may also have a look there. That is the incident that occurred, and that's when those agencies were there to see how they can do to quench the fire. The police also, remember, they did tell us that they have the man in custody who shot at the fleeing person there.
Yeah, what we still do not have, excuse me, is the status of the person who was shot. There seems to be some silence on, that status. Did he die? Was he in a critical condition? The person who aimed the shot, did he get his target? What is the status of the person who was shot at? That's Ibrahim, what's his name now? Yeah, the 27-year-old man who we understand was allegedly convicted by a mobile court yesterday in Wuse. But it's also good to note that at least the fire service was on hand to handle the situation, and we didn't have a situation of no water, etc. Because in recent times there have been questions as to, general administration within the FCT when it comes to matters of traffic, etc., etc. But we will be getting very soon, hopefully, as you said today, the Minister of the FCT will be appearing before the Senate, and I'm sure that maybe this might be some of the questions that will be coming up. But very soon, in no time, we'll be going into the conversation we have on the Safe Schools Initiative and what the federal government intends to do to ensure that many more states are not subjected or are not vulnerable to attacks that are now being perpetrated by bandits and terrorists across many parts of northern Nigeria. Chamberlain.
Oh, yes, indeed. That is part of what we'll consider. But we'll be back in just a moment and take you through what is the federal government doing to ensure that schools are a lot safer. Because this morning we also did see that some bandits in Sokoto, they are demanding about 20 million naira ransom for kidnapped Sangaya school children. That's information just filtering through. But just give us a moment. We will be back to talk about this and more.
It is 6 days since no fewer than 287 school children were abducted by bandits at Kuriga community in Chukun local government area of Kaduna State. The attack has been generating reactions and has also raised concerns about the government's Safe School initiative. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, arrives Kaduna State to meet Governor Uba Sani over the unfortunate incident. He is accompanied by some senior police officers. The IGP assures the governor that the police leadership is working with other security agencies to ensure the safe return of the children.
Your Excellency, I want to assure you that the police leadership and indeed the leadership of all security agencies in Nigeria are as concerned as you are over the safety of these children. And we are going to do everything possible with you to ensure that they return safely.
The police boss also outlined some of the strategies for the rescue of the victims and forestalling a future occurrence.
I have instructed the AIG PMF to immediately deploy a unit of PMF to that community, if only to give confidence to the people. The men will be deployed, and with the support that you have pledged to give, I'm sure that the community will start to feel safe again. We are launching the Special Intervention Squad for Kaduna State.
Governor Sani thanks the security agencies for their intervention, promising to give them all the support to ensure the rescue of the abducted students.
We are extremely confident that the school children, by the grace of God, will return back home safely. And of course, we will do everything to ensure that we work closely with the relevant security agencies in Nigeria to ensure that our children are back home safely. And I'm also happy with the decision by the Inspector of Police to quickly deploy mobile base in our Kuriga community.
The Minister of State for Education, Dr. Yusuf Tanko, also visited Governor Sani over the school attack, accompanied by some senior officials of the ministry.
It's our belief that what we have right now, the over 20 million out of school children, which Mr. President prioritized in the 8-point agenda to get them back to school, the attack on school is a major setback.
Lately, there has been a resurgence of school attacks by bandits, primarily targeting children in the northwest and northeast regions. This underscores the imperative for security agencies to reassess their operational strategies and devise more effective measures to combat the scourge of banditry and kidnapping in the area.
All right, welcome back. So we've got Dr. Yusuf Sununu here with us. He is the Minister of State for Education. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
We did see you in that report and in Kaduna schools on that attack. So definitely lots of people will have questions. There'll be concerns. So yes, we heard a bit of what you said there, but if you could just elaborate a little bit, what is the government doing now? What can you tell those who think they're not exactly sure if government has a grip on this, because people will be discouraged to keep sending their awards to schools if they keep seeing things like this?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me and having me this morning. First of all, let me start by saying that what happened is rather unfortunate and has a lot of capability to cause damage to education. Generally, attack, not only to education, is something serious. But when attack is to education, it's attacking the base, because education is what you can use to develop your country, is what you can use to find your rightful place in the global arena, and it's also what you can do to improve it has direct relationship with lifelong activity of an individual. That's why, as of today, learning is so inclusive, starting from the base to when somebody has come to the end of his life. So it's a continuous process. And when you see there is an attack in that moment, it also becomes so serious now that you also have a government in place that is committed towards making education better for all. Mr. President came up with a declaration of trying to improve the funding of education, to also improve the safety in school, and also to, most importantly, which we describe as a time bomb, the out-of-school children to be moved back to school, so that this country will remain to participate in the global arena, so that we can have the individual that will be able to participate actively in the global and local affairs. But today, we wake up all of a sudden, and then there was a massive kidnapping of school students. That is really very unfortunate. And the government has to address 3 to 4 major issues. One, about the children that were kidnapped. 2, about improving the psychology and stability of the parents that were involved, and also even the governor himself, and even Mr. President too, because anybody who is ruling on such number of innocent life, some even below the age of 9 being kidnapped and taken into kidnappers then with this higher heat And everybody, you know, those who are in position will also be psychologically affected.
Have we?
So we have to do that. We also have to ensure that even the infrastructure too, where are we and how do we protect it? And this is also the summary of what is known as the Safe School Initiative.
Okay, I was going to go there. What's happening to that? People think the government has jettisoned it.
We haven't jettisoned the Safe School Declaration, and even this year we have celebrated Safe School Day, protection of our institution from an attack on attack. Most especially education, the three components of education, the student, infrastructure, and also the continuous surveillance of the environment. So the Safe School Initiative, we are working, and it's still in place. It has a committee even in Nigeria to ensure the execution following the Nigeria's signing into declaration. And we have, it is a multi-agency committee that involves both security, the finance, and education. The essence of that, security will now provide the surveillance and surveillance and necessary response when needed. For the education on our own part, we are always in touch with schools so that they can detect early subtle signs and they can give us, and we communicate that to community and listen. And then the finance aspect that is there is also to ensure that there is adequate funding of the committee so that it can perform well. But I think what we are going to do and what we are looking at now is the possibility of ranging from in terms of our tracking and surveillance. We have to now move towards using technology. So as this is also in this fact that the ministry also just recently we have an interministerial meeting with the Ministry of Digital Economy and then even Ministry of Science and Technology to see how we can deploy science and technology towards surveillance and also protecting our school. We thought that by doing that, we'll get it right. But unfortunately, as you are working, the bandits also are not sleeping. They are also and most of this information, unlike conventional war, that you know, this banditry attack is something that is new to this. People will say 10 years from 2011 to now is a good time to have an experience. But you see, it's just like what we do in medicine, we call when you are using antibiotics. Why do antibiotics develop resistance to drug? It's because as you are changing, they are also reacting on their own mind, producing something that will protect them. So it's like the ongoing, we are working, they are working. But you see, the issue is that's why we have to come to conclusion that what way we can only go ahead of them is to see how we can deploy technology and science into it. And by doing that, we ensure that this is. So I was in Kaduna yesterday. The IG of police was also in Kaduna. Vice President also went there. These are all efforts to ensure that I think this is also one of the first time that I see, because I know my state was also a victim. Federal Government College, Benia Wuri was attacked, and we have recovered, all the students were gained their freedom. But I think the concerted effort now to the extent of Mr. President coming out to give a directives to the security agents to ensure that those kidnapped children are released in the shortest possible time.
But that's a challenge, because many think that nothing has significantly changed with respect to the security architecture. So many ungoverned spaces. So
you see, I'm not a security personnel or security expert, but I want to believe that definitely a security issue is not something that we can now come and discuss publicly. As I told you, I mentioned the issue of antibiotics. Scientists are doing their own in their own laboratory. The organisms are also doing on their own where they are. So if you come out to mention what you are doing or the effort you are doing.
No, we're not asking them to mention. For instance, everybody can see. What about the response time for distress calls? Have you seen any improvement whatsoever across the country?
Well, I said the response time, I can say there's some improvement.
How?
But we are not where we are.
Which improvement? What's example?
Unlike before. You see, I told you that if you Google now, you've seen I've raised more than 20 motions on security attack in my constituency as a member of House of Rep. Now, I think I had the cost to address World Press Conference that over 300 journalists in the National Assembly when the Federal Government College, Bini Awuri, were kidnapped. And I quite agree that what the kind of enthusiasm to see that those children kidnapped now are released wasn't there at that time. I'm sure of that. I'm a member of House of Representatives, and you can Google, you see all the motions that have been made on security situation. But you see, the issue is, it's not that the government is not doing anything, or the government is not concerned. I mentioned you, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a father. not only to the children, but to the country. And I said that you cannot be in a place of leadership. You are having this kind of this, and people say you are not worried. You understand? But you see, why you are also doing at that, why you are also worried, you have to also look at the collateral damage of over 300 innocent souls. You understand? So all other measures must be put in place to see how we can get this. But then this also should now give us, and that's why I said now we are even looking at, we queried ourselves, we are saying, what happened to our surveillance? What happened to our
intelligence?
I mentioned that. And I mentioned that. I said the only solution that we can have now is to see how we can digitalize our surveillance and tracking mechanism. You understand?
I'm glad that, there are questions being asked, because really and honestly, any citizen that is aware and is intelligent enough, these are the questions that they will ask. These are the questions that they're asking over and over again.
Yes, and I said, I've mentioned that before you asked me, that we have detected that what we needed now is deployment of technology to monitor the activities of the bandit. So that rather than waiting that they are around this place, they are around this place. We all know what is needed to have general mapping. Even at that, and once you have general mapping, you can now be able to follow them with your drone or whatever you can use. And security based, and that's why even I mentioned in Kaduna that we are going to reposition the activities of the Rapid Response Committee under the very Ministry of Finance, so that we can work in harmony to ensure that now what we have is more effective. Rather than we only come to say that this, what do we do now? They are kidnapping.
What do you mean by rapid response? You said rapid response.
Yes, that's a Ministry of Finance. We have under the as a safe security under the Safe School Initiative. And the essence of that committee is one, surveillance, to detect early subtle sign before attack happen, so that we can also prepare for the rapid response when it happens. We also make preparation if there is need for evacuation to quickly evacuate them. And then last, to ensure that where we have evacuated those children to where we are keeping them, the education continues. Since
the Safe Schools Initiative thing was signed and even proposed, I think shortly after the Chibok girls thing happened, I remember that then Prime Minister Gordon Brown from the United Kingdom came, and that's when the Safe Schools Initiative thing was, they came up with it.
Yes.
Can we cite any example where it, as a result of having the Safe Schools Initiative, students in a particular school were saved from being kidnapped?
And you cannot say that since the Safe Initiative, even if you have never have a time that the attack was averted, no.
I'm just asking if we have examples of that. Because sadly, what we have had examples of are many more attacks of schools.
Okay, if you go to some students from the University of Federal University of Gusau and Federal University of Dusoma were attacked. But I told you that so many attacks were foiled, were stopped, were abated by the same activity of the...
was it as a result of Safe Schools Initiative?
Exactly, because we have a team all over. It's because of this thing.
So would you say that the Safe Schools Initiative is overwhelmed? Because the idea behind it is to prevent this type of attack from happening again.
When you say overwhelmed, how many schools do you have? How many, what do we call soft target do we have in Nigeria? So many. And that's why we said, because of the human capacity is limited, there is need to deploy technology, which will now give you, in technology, you can make your surveillance. In technology, you can make attack. You make assessment, and then you can attack when there is risk, when you know that there is minimal or no collateral damage.
Okay, Honorable Minister, because I'm just wondering, when we heard that over 200 children, I don't know whether we have a definitive figure of how many children were actually kidnapped. Do we know how many? How many people are we looking at in total?
We're looking at about 280.
280. Is it about? Is it a more concrete figure?
No, you see, when you say about, in a situation like that, you cannot give correct figure. For example, some may not be with kidnappers. Some may be missing because of the fear, and they are yet to be traced. But security are working, and even the parents are working. You understand? So getting exact figure may be very, very difficult. You understand? Along the line, even when journalists were interviewing one of the teachers, he ran away when he around the bush. You understand? He got escaped. I mean, he said that many people got escaped. Sometimes you escape. You miss even your way. You cannot get back to all this thing.
Okay, so we're still hoping that some people have escaped and maybe they're on their way back. Okay, so let's go with
and that happened. This thing even in where is it? Gusau. When the students were kidnapped, a lot escaped. The figure has to be changed after a week.
Okay, so let's go with your figure of 280. I mean, so we still have now. Then let's go with that. I'm just wondering, you know, it would have taken a lot for 280 students to have been kidnapped. They would have been hauled into a lot of vehicles. So there have been questions as to, are we saying nobody saw this number of people coming to that school? Are we saying that when they were leaving, nobody saw them? So there'll be big questions as to the response time for when people saw those kinds of things, and even calling the security agencies.
You that's why,
because shortly after, Honorable Minister, shortly after that attack happened, we saw a lot of security vehicles arriving at the premises of the school. So big questions were, where were those security trucks? You see, when that attack was going on, or shortly after that attack happened, how come they were unable to foil them?
You see, this question that you're asking are directly security-related questions. You understand?
But
also, our committee, we have called for an emergency meeting to address these questions with security members in our community, in the committee. That look, these are our questions. How and what happened? You understand? You see, I've been to this studio several times on the issue. This thing. You have interviewed me severally on issue of kidnapping in my this thing. So the issue is that there are what we needed much now is inter-security agency collaboration. We cannot do away with that. There must be an inter-agency collaboration, and most important that it will lead will be sharing of information between security agencies, and taking any subtle information from average villager to be sincere.
Is that what is missing?
It's some of probably that's sort of not is missing, because I'm not a security expert and I don't want to dwell in that too much. But you see, when things happen and you know that there are multiple people that have a lot of responsibility, you now think, okay, you have to come together because you have the community. What happened? Who first noticed the information? When you have the information, did you share it with their counterpart in SSS? Did you share it with the civil defense? Did you share it with the police? Even the vigilante that is employed in some city can provide information. But the issue is not information. How do we sit down, synthesize the information, and get a result?
Ayo.
Well, thank you, Mark. Honorable Minister, just one or two things to raise with you. We have been told several times that the first line of defense in our economy, in our nation, is the local government system. And they have some measure of responsibility in the area of education as well. And the federal government cannot come and govern the local government. So is there a role that the states themselves evaded, or a gap that was left at the state level, such that the local government security apparatus couldn't forestall some of these issues, in your opinion?
You see, I quite agree with you. Education is in the concurrent list, and therefore both local government, state and federal government has its own share. And even if you look at the number of state secondary and basic schools that we have right now, federal government have only 112. So a majority, more than almost 98%, belongs to the state and local government. You understand? So they have a larger share. And that's why since we came in our own program within the ministry, we initiated from top, we have a top to bottom approach. We carry them all over and we work together. But you see, the issue of security is something else. That I agree that even the local government, they have their own security. The chairman is the chief security officer of his local government, and the governor is the chief security officer of the state. And I cannot say that things are not done at this end. Let me tell you one thing. To ensure that the state are doing much, look at Kaduna State. And I think it's only Kaduna State for now that I can say I know of a very vibrant commissioner of security, who is also, I think, he happened to be a journalist before now, something Aruan. That is always all over. If he is talking, you think that you are talking to a security expert. Because of the experience he's garnered at that time as a spokesperson of the Kaduna State government, that warranted his elevation to state of commissioner on security. And this is the man that is also doing so much. So Kaduna State is not a state that you can say that it's not doing much, because not only in terms of school attack, Kaduna State is an area that has been seen, that has been so much insurgency attack. Look at the Bindengwari to Kontagora.
The question, your Honorable Minister, the question is why do we still have these issues when they have that kind of responsibility? Are they vulnerable? Does the federal government have to come up all the time whenever there is anything, any security breach at schools in the states?
The federal government has to come in because there are some areas that are direct mandate of the state, of the federal government. For example, the mobilization of security at level of military is not within the ambit of the state. Even though the state are we
then saying that the police is inefficient? Just a second, Senator. Are we then saying that
the police?
Go ahead.
Police are not inefficient. They are not inefficient. But you see, that is what we call, even in medicine, what we call radical approach. Once something becomes persistent and is a serious threat to life, you now forget that this man's responsibility. What you're after is how do you address the situation. And the situation now becomes the internal security has to even be, the military must also be involved because of the capacity and gravity of the weight of what we are dealing with. And I told you initially, it's not a conventional war. This is an insurgency that they can take you overnight. And then where the access road they are even using is not where you can go with a motor to go. So you understand. And then the country is so large that you need to mobilize all of this, and that's why I open my statement. If we want to succeed in bringing back school, out of school, back school, we must reassure parents and we must do that. And the only way you can do is through multinational, multi-sectoral, inter-ministerial collaboration to see how we can look at the issue of school attack head on, and then see how we can bring an end to that. Because without doing that, so when you are attacking and you want to bring an end to any situation, you cannot say this is your responsibility. Police, you are going to take care of the school. No, there is an attack. And they are using superior power. You have to match them with the also power they are using. And even if it means you mobilize military, and that's what is happening in Kaduna State. And many other states that you have an insurgency.
All right, Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Minister of State for Education, we thank you for coming on today. And we do hope that those students will be back as soon as possible.
Thank you. And I also want to call on Nigerians to please be prayerful and show understanding and see how we can work together to get those children back. We are all worried. As a father, I've never watched a video. I cried, but I cried when I saw this one. Right. So I think we are all worried, and we are all working towards getting them liberated.
All right.
And you can see, even with all the risk, with minimal security, I have to get myself to Kaduna. Right. So that as a ministry, to say that, look, we have identified with you as a government.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. Well, that is the show today as well. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Train Balunosof. Goodbye.
Thank you. I'm Yusuf.
Have a wonderful and productive day. I'm Ayo Makinde.